the management, Sri Krishna Institutions, on behalf of the principals, deans, professors, students, faculty members, and my own behalf, I take it as a great pleasure and privilege to welcome for this respectful chief guest, Professor Manohar Lal Munjal, for this 1 week lecture series sponsored by AICTE. Wholeheartedly, on behalf of the entire team, I welcome you, sir. We are grateful to have your knowledgeful sharing of experience for this 1 week forum. This distinguished chair professor fellowship intends to utilize the expertise of highly qualified and experienced professionals who have made unparalleled exceptional professional contribution to the society in their respective field discipline for motivating and inspiring students faculty of AICTE's approved institutions. And we are honored to have you, sir, as our distinguished chair professor will be sharing his experience and expertise in the following topics: self-confidence, challenging oneself. As you all know, who I am, and knowing oneself is need of the hour for entire career development. Creative thinking, a leap ahead, where in the market of competitive scenario, we have to think differently, we have to think in a new box, we have to think in out of box. So younger generation, please get the expertise of sir's knowledge aspects in this. And consultancy and industrial opportunities and challenges especially goes good for the faculty members, and in touch on environment, impact of noise level remedies, more technical and with the respect of the other engineering departments, and noise reduction in machineries and research ahead. And hope the entire week is going to have the knowledge aspects in a fruitful way. And thanks for the organizing of IQAC team for having this wonderful occasion and knowledge sharing for us. And let us invite our chief guest, Professor Munjal, for sharing his experience on confidence challenging oneself. Welcome you, sir, and please take up your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, I request Ms. M.S. Trusi, Assistant Professor, Department of CSC, to share a few words of introduction about our chief guest. Good morning, one and all present here. It is my privilege and pleasure to welcome our Lord Chief Guest, Dr. Manohar Lal Munjal. Dr. Manohar Lal Munjal obtained his bachelor degree in mechanical engineering from Punjab Engineering College, Chandigarh, master's degree in internal combustion engineering in 1968 and PhD in 1971 from Indian Institute of Science. He has published over 200 papers in professional journals. He has authored a monograph titled Acoustics of Deaths and Mufflers and a textbook on noise and vibration controls. Also, he has contributed many chapters in a couple of international handbooks. He has guided 18 PhD students and executed over 100 industrial consultancy projects in different aspects of noise control and computer designs. Since its inception in 1998, Professor Munjal has been the convener of Facility for Research in Technical Acoustics. Since 1988, he has been a distinguished international member of the Institute of Noise Control Engineering of USA. Recently, Professor Munjal has been as Honorary Fellow of the International Institute of Acoustics and Vibration. He served as Chairman of the National Committee for Noise Pollution Control for 18 years. He was the President of Acoustical Society of India during the year 1999 and 2000. He is a member of editorial board of the International Journal of Acoustics and Vibration. He is a fellow of Indian National Science Academy as well as Indian National Academy of Engineering. He has received many awards for his excellent performance in various works. He got Science Academy Medal for Young Scientist for the year 1975 for his significant contribution in noise control and vehicle dynamics, and Sir C.V. Raman Award of the Acoustical Society of India for the year 1980-81 for the best contributed paper, and the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize in Engineering Science for the year 1986. He was the chairman of department and held the award Professor Reston Choksi Award for the Excellence in Research for Engineering at the Institute for the year 1995, and Ms. Narayanan Memorial Lecture Award in 1995 and Professor S. Bhagwan Award in 2066 of the Acoustical Society of India. Professor Munjal received the DRDO Academic Excellence Award in 2009 at the hands of Honorable Prime Minister of India, Dr. Manohar Singh, for his significant contribution in the analysis and design of stress lining and submarines and silencing system for turbines. He received Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru National Award in Engineering and Technology for the year 2010 at the hands of Honorable Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh in 2013 for his significant contribution to noise pollution control. And Professor J. Krishna Memorial Award in 2013 of Indian National Academy of Engineering in recognition of his sustained excellence with ethics. He was the chairman of the Division Mechanical Science from 1999 to 2005 and convener of Divisional chairs from 2003 to 2005. After his formal retirement in 2010, he was INAE Distinguished Professor during 2010 to 2013 and Honorary Professor of the Institute from 2010 to 2015. He was INSA Senior Scientist from 2013 to 2018. Currently, he is the AICTE Distinguished Chair Professor and INSA Honorary Scientist at Indian Institute of Science, Bengaluru. Today, I am honored to welcome our Lord Chief Guest of Honor, Dr. Manohar Lal Munjal. Welcome you, sir.
So when you are around enormously successful people, you realize that their success isn't an accident, it's about hard work. Sir, your presence is indeed a source of motivation. We are looking forward to hear your speech.
நம்ம ரொட்டேட் பண்ணால் இதுதான் எனக்கு லைவ் சேட்டும் பேச போகிறாருன்னா இப்படி திருப்பினாங்க ஃபோன் அசைக்கவே வந்தோம் ஸ்டாண்ட் எப்படி வச்சு திருப்பி ரப்பர் பண்ணிக்கலாம் இல்லை வச்சு இருக்காது இப்போ நம்ம கரெக்டாக இருக்கா ஓகே சூப்பர் இப்போ வந்து போட்டு கொஞ்சம் பண்ணுறாரு இப்படிதான் இருக்குது இப்படிதான் இருக்குது சரி ஓட்டு பிளேஸிங் இப்படி மட்டும்தான் வரும் அவங்க இப்படி வரணுன்றாங்க யூடியூப்க்கு வந்து வரேன் யூடியூப் ரெடி பண்ணி எங்கேருந்து பேசாதுன்னு தெரியும் இந்த சைடு எஸ் மேம் இல்லை வேறு டேபிள் வந்துடுவோம் வேறு டேபிளில் வச்சா ஃபுல்லாக கவர் ஆகிற மாதிரி அங்கே போய் வச்சு பார்ப்போமா அங்கே ஒரு பசங்க மட்டும் இருக்கும் ஆனால் சார் இங்கே உட்காந்து சொன்னீங்கன்னா
Hello.
லேட்டஸ்ட் ஸ்பீட் நடக்கும் சார்
என்ன பண்ணாலும் இந்த இதுக்குள்ள ஏரில் தான்
ஃபோன் வீடியோ
குவாலிட்டி போட்டாலும் ஒரு எப்படி எப்படி பார்க்குறேன் ஒரு நேரம் வரவே இல்லை
அட்வான்ஸ்
ஐஎஸ்டி அட்வான்ஸ்
லைவ் சவுண்ட்
ஃபுல்லாக வந்து பண்ணுறோம் சரி பார்ப்போம் வந்து நல்லா இருக்கு
ஓகே
Good morning, everybody. It's really a pleasure talking to all the youngsters here. And I can see see, the very good distribution between males and females. When I started my education, in engineering college, there was hardly any girl. I had just to give you an idea, when I did in Chandigarh, Punjab Engineering College, there were 1,750 boys and one girl. So it can't be, ratio can be more than that, But now I can see, even when I went back to the college recently, more than 30% students are females. This is really very nice. And of course in South it is generally still better. And it's nice to see everybody like this. Okay. Now today I am going to speak to you, and I will be sitting if you don't mind now sometimes. I am going to talk to you about this thing, self-confidence, challenging oneself. And this is really based on my own life story. And I thought that's the best example that I can give. I don't have to borrow from anybody else. Okay? I was born on the wrong side of the border, which is now in Pakistan. Okay, and when we came, I was 3-year-old, and we lost everything there. In fact, so many of us were kids. Okay, and those of us who finally made it, we were just happy to be alive. Nothing else mattered. Just that. So this is what I want to tell you here. Born to parents with no formal education, on the wrong side of the border, and starting my life from a refugee camp, I rose to receive awards from 3 different prime ministers. And here is my brief life story, with the hope that it will inspire the younger generation to challenge themselves at every stage. And this is most important, convert adversity into advantage. Instead of fretting about inadequacy of resources, facilities and opportunities. And I'll just like to tell you one thing. When we were in the refugee camp, I was 3-year-old. And all that time there was crying in the refugee camp. Because people who had come, they had lost their parents, they had lost their brothers, sisters. Even the train in which my father and my brother came, 50% were dead inside. Purely because of dehydration. All the doors and windows closed for 72 hours. Okay? Finally, when they reached, 50% were dead inside because of dehydration. And even my father, who was personally alive, he could not open his lips to tell name to the registration people. For 4 hours, they had put water on their lips to rehydrate, to be able to talk, to be able to open the lips, to tell your name. I'm just trying to tell you that was the thing. But despite that, my father was always thanking God. When all of us were crying and praying and this and that, my father was thanking God. So I couldn't understand as a child. I said, what do we have? Everybody is asking from God this, that, and you are thanking. He said, we are alive. Isn't that sufficient? And look at that sentence coming from a man who had no education, who had escaped from those places in Pakistan, going to the underground nalas, and so that he was not killed. Those kind of situations. And not only that, my mother and me, we got separated from my father and brother. And it took 3 months for my father to raise my mother and me. So what I'm trying to say is, despite that, he said, I'm sorry. He said, God gave us life, and the rest is in our own hands. No excuses. Now this is one thing I want to share with all of you. That it's very easy to just cry and say, oh, I have nothing, I have nothing. Okay? Other thing is, well, I'm alive. My hands, my feet, everything is fine. I work, I'll come up. And he did it. Imagine now, without any education, without any money, starting as a laborer. Okay, he educated all the three sons. Fortunately, one thing I must say, government of India also was very helpful. We got some refugee grant. We got the houses which had been vacated by those others who had gone to Pakistan. So those were given to us for very little rent. Even my school gave me free education all through my 11 years of education in the school. But what I'm trying to say is that for many it will not have been sufficient because you only keep looking at what you have lost. Okay? But my father said, that in the train that he came, 50% were dead. And not only that, the next train that came from Pakistan, not a single person walked out. Everybody was butchered inside. Okay? So I'm just trying to tell you the situation which we faced. And despite that, my father said, no, we'll fight it out. We are alive and that's enough. Okay, and that's what I want to tell you. This ultimate bottom line has stayed with me all my life. It has been a guiding principle. I have never complained in my life. I just thought I'd share with you this slide because it's a little important for you to understand that it's very easy to speak about the sources, but it's another thing to say, all right, at least I'm alive. That's all. Nothing matters. Now, I joined Sanatan Dharam High School in Hoshiarpur, which is one of the districts of the Punjab. And in those days, of course, what happened was in the partition of India and Pakistan, 2/3 of Punjab was lost to Pakistan. In fact, that was the most fertile place. The 5 rivers, that's how it is called Punjab. Okay, that went to Pakistan. We got only 1/3 of that. And even that 1/3 of that was so big that present Haryana and Himachal Pradesh, they were part of Punjab. Even that 1/3. So what I'm trying to say, total original Punjab state was almost equal to UP. Not UP, little less than that. Anyway, now, we had a very nice tradition. We had a very nice tradition that we used to have a prayer. And during that prayer, once in a while, maybe once a week or once in 10 days, we have some speaker to talk to children about younger matters. So on particular morning, that speaker, he must have been educationist or psychologist of those days, I didn't know all that. But anyway, he made a statement which I like very much. He said, nobody is born intelligent. Nobody is born intelligent. He said, as it happens to the body, the more you exercise your muscles, the more strength you get. Exactly the same way, the more you exercise your brain, more you challenge yourself, better it will become, more productive it will become. And now, again, God must be very kind to me that I heard that sentence, absorbed that sentence. Whole day that day I kept thinking that I said, that's it. It's in my hand. I can do it. This was very important because I told you, nobody was educated in the house. Okay? Nobody was there to guide. Here was the first guidance, first sentence that went into me. That yes, nobody is born intelligent and it's my hand to challenge myself. So I started challenging myself intellectually. And playing with integers, I developed magic tables to entertain myself as well as my classmates. Now this was very interesting thing. Of course, you must have heard about magic tables and things like that. These days, on the internet, you have all sorts of things. One day what happened was a teacher, he just brought something to the class and he just said that we'll have some fun today. You have any number in your mind and just tell me whether it is there in this table, this table, this table, this table, and I'll tell you what is the number. And when he was showing that, I was monitoring the class and I was standing by his side. I noticed that those tables had been made with certain patterns, such that the first digit was important and all other digits were basically what are made from that. Anyway, so I by the time he explained and said, I had completely learned what to do. So that day I went home. I made the tables. Not only if I had done up to 100, I made up to 1,000 or up to 2,000 in that by the end of the day. Okay. Now, this proved to. I mean, this was a very nice lesson for myself. Yes, I can do it. It's all question of how much you challenge yourself. Okay. And this really hobby continued later. Having no entertainment at home, I engaged myself with mathematical challenges that made me excel not only in mathematics, but also everything logical. Looking for logical patterns in algebraic calculations became my hobby as well as a personal challenge. Now here when I'm using the word of hobby, it's very important. They all the time, when they are asked to study, they tell them, oh my God, I have to study. Everybody else is playing. My mother wants me to play, study. Now this negative thinking, I never let that come into my mind. This was another, again, God sent him because after his good thoughts also somebody must have been responsible for that. So it can't happen just like that. But what I'm trying to say is that because hobby is something that you like to do, you never get bored working on that hobby. So I just made this hobby, and therefore I was always happy, working whole day, and still I'll be enjoying. So this is very important thing, because without that I couldn't have done all that I did in my life. Now I just want to tell you here, this is how I, looking for logical patterns in algebraic calculation became my hobby, and this is how I developed during my 8th standard what I later came to know was called binomial theorem. Okay, so basically my elder brother was just 2 years after in school, and he used to be a little negative kind of thing. He would come and say, oh my God, today we had to do some theorem, I don't know who invented that theorem and created the word, made our life difficult, etc., etc. So I just asked him, what is it? And then he just said, like this, you have a plus, you could keep the power something, and then you can expand like this, etc., etc., etc. Now, again, it's a question of attitude. I took up a challenge. Nobody challenged me, and nobody at that time. I just, when listening to my brother, I said, no, I'll do it. And you won't believe, 6 hours, we talked like this at around 7 or 8 o'clock during dinner time. And up to 2 o'clock, I had developed complete things. In fact, much more than what binomial theorem we have of Newton. I was able to develop myself, and not only that, because I developed myself without going through the combinatorics, I did something much better, much easier to do. And that is how, next morning when both of us got up, my brother and me, so I presented to him the whole thing at breakfast time. I said, here you are. Okay. So that day, that my brother really developed some respect for me. Because otherwise, all the time he would after me, why don't you study? Why don't you study? We are so poor, and we have to do that. So the word have to do that I never liked. So then that means I'm making a job of it. I enjoyed it. Okay, and so this is what I just want to tell you. And in one particular instance, I'll tell you one more. And this, yeah, what happened after I finished my 7th standard? and we were waiting for the 8th. There were those were the holidays. And I used to play street cricket. And again, my brother don't like it. He just thought we should always be studying. You know, I said that's not on. But anyway, so I said that I have been standing first in the school all the years in everything. So what's the problem? What next? He said, no, that's not something. You must be beyond school. Okay. Anyway, so one day I was playing and then he almost dragged me after that, and that I minded so much, in the presence, in front of my friends, I had to leave everything and come home, And then I asked him, what is the problem? He says, you don't know, now we are going to 8th standard and that mathematics is so difficult, and then we also have a board examination in 8th, so you have to do something. Again, the same thing came to me. I mean, I could have fought with him or whatever, but tried nothing. I said, I'll take up the challenge. What I did was, I took his 8th standard book, those books were not changing every year, So whatever they were 2 years ago, and the same thing will come. And I worked on the whole book, all the exercises, in 10 days time. In 10 days time, I chapter by chapter, okay, in 10 days time, I did everything, and then like a typical child, I presented it to him. Now, can I go and play now? I mean, as if that was the only thing to be done, that I had to get permission for playing. So only if I do something. So I just gave to him like, can I go and play now? He was shocked when he saw everything, and I actually went and played whole day. But in the evening, when I was just lying, it occurred to me that yes, I could do it. I didn't need a teacher. I could do it myself. And in the whole process, I couldn't sleep that night because I discovered myself. Yes, I can do it. I can do everything. Why not? After all, teachers also learn something from the books and then they teach us. Okay? I also now did the same thing. I studied those things written in the book and then taught myself. Now, that was a turning point in my life about this topic that I'm talking about. Challenge yourself if you want to develop. Now, 9th, 10th, and 11th. It used to be 11-year higher secondary course. You would believe I actually would do everything before that was going to be taught that day in the class. I would learn myself and then go to the class. Okay? And in the evening, of course, I continued. I was representing school in cricket. I still wanted to play cricket, so I would do all that. And then after dinner, sit down and study. And this is how life went on. And at the end of 11th, I got 5th rank in the Punjab University. And let me also tell you, that was a big thing because in the whole of Punjab, Haryana, and Himachal Pradesh of today, there was only one university, Punjab University. So it was really a big thing, getting that kind of rank. And in fact, I was, taken to the city in a procession, and all that. It was very embarrassing, actually. But anyway, now, and at the end of the day, the principal of that school, he came to our house, and that was the most embarrassing. We did not have even a chair to offer to our principal to sit down. We didn't have electricity in the house. Okay? And it's so hard. What next? My father could not even afford to send him to college, leave aside engineering college. Okay? So that meant nothing. But then, that's what I want to tell you here. And then God helps those who help themselves. So, despite a rank in the university, my future appeared to be bleak. My father could not afford to send me to college. Fortunately, however, the government of India introduced that very year the Government of India Scholarship for Life scheme, but the first 10 bank holders of every university in the country. The new scheme was started. In those days, there were very few universities in thousands. Okay, for example, I remember there were only 22 or 32 universities in the whole country. So they said first 10 banks of every university will be given a scholarship, and that will be for life. Of course, in those days, amount was not much. I got 50 rupees on the 12th, then 110 rupees during engineering college, then 250 rupees per month for MTech, 400 rupees for PhD. But how that was sufficient? That means I don't think it is small money. Okay, so when I am saying 250 rupees and I finished the science, I was still saving 70 to 80 rupees out of that. So that was sufficient for my fees. Fees of course was only 15 rupees per month, and mess charges used to be around 100, 125 or so. Anyway, what I want to tell you is that this is how suddenly my life changed. My higher education was ensured all the way to PhD by an act of God, and that's why I'm saying God has posed heaven themselves. In fact, my life has been full of this kind of thing. There was no planning. I didn't know why I'm doing it, what will happen, that's nothing. I lived by the day. And whatever I did it my best, enjoyed it, and no question of ever getting headache and tired and all that. The tired thing was completely not on. And this is what I want to convey to all of you today. Something that you enjoy and make it a hobby. It never tires you out. Tiredness all comes from here. Oh my God, I have to do this. Since morning I have to do this. Otherwise people are playing and I have to sit. Whenever you sort of have to, more the word you use in your mind, the more you are discouraging yourself. And then after that you are not able to work. Whatever little work you do, that will tire you out. So this never happened. Now another interesting thing I am going to tell you. I joined the Punjab Engineering College, Chandigarh, in mechanical engineering. And let me tell you, those days there were no entrance examination and those kind of things. When, for example, we did pre-engineering, then our merit list in the Punjab University, that would appear in the newspaper. And you won't believe, out of 250 ranks, first 235 joined Punjab Engineering College. As if they could have simply made the selection in the newspaper rather than conducting interviews. Okay, so this is how it was. In fact, I remember, in those days, I'm talking of 1962. IITs had just started, except for IIT Kharagpur. Other IITs like IIT Delhi was only 2-year-old, and Kanpur was 1-year-old, etc., etc. They had just started. So we asked our, professor there in the college whether we should we join Punjab Engineering College or IITs. He said, what IIT? Not Engineering College. The way with that, with that feeling he said in Punjab. And Punjab Engineering College was already 75-year-old when IIT started. Okay, that college of course was a little Lahore before partition. After Lahore, this was shifted to Roorkee as Thompson Engineering College in Roorkee. And then when Chandigarh city was built, then that was shifted to Chandigarh and called Punjab Engineering College. Okay, and it's very interesting. Everybody is so much attached to Punjab. I was invited by Pakistan Academy of Sciences a few years ago, and I found that that college, which used to be in Lahore, they are also equally proud of that. But only they don't call it Punjab Engineering College because already we had called our college the Punjab Engineering College. They call it something else. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is, they also remember that that was the college of the whole North India, the college. And yes, what I want to tell you here is, in that college there was a very interesting tradition. At the end of second year, there will be a 20-day educational tour from Chandigarh to Calcutta side, east. And at the end of third year, there will be a directional tour from Chandigarh to South. Okay, and this was compulsory. Like for example, in our mechanical engineering, there were 94 of us, and we had a bogey. All 94 are there. No question of not going, etc. It was a part of education, and everybody had to do that. We visited Bengaluru, and then those days there was no broad gauge between Bengaluru and Mysore. So we could not take our bogie that we had brought from Chandigarh. We could not take it to Mysore. So we had to leave that in the yard, take buses, and then go to Mysore. And in that process, some communication gap happened between me and my friends. I don't know how. I missed the bus. Everybody went to Mysore, and I was stranded suddenly in Bengaluru. Now this is what I want to tell you today. You won't believe. I said, due to some miscommunication, I missed the bus to Mysore and was stranded. That is the best thing that happened to me. Or I discovered the Indian Institute of Science, probably the best place for a born researcher like me. Because I had nowhere to go, I went to the IISc campus, and then I saw the whole campus. I saw the laboratories, the tradition of working 24 hours a day. I mean, even for example at midnight at 1 o'clock, I find even the girls coming from the biology department doing research and going to the hostel, etc. As if it was day. I mean, completely there was nothing like tiredness on their faces and all that. And that is the atmosphere I wanted. Okay, and that is what when I said I discovered the Indian Institute of Science. In fact, my general knowledge was so poor. I didn't even know there was a place called Indian Institute of Science. You won't believe it. Because, we didn't have a radio in the house. We couldn't afford a newspaper. So my general knowledge was zero. So I literally discovered Indian Institute of Science during those 2 days. Okay? So that's what I want to tell you here. That, I found it was the best place for a born researcher like me. And next year, fortunately, I was selected at IISc to do my master's degree in Department of Internal Commercial Engineering, in fact, without any test or interview. Those days there was no entrance test. They used to go through your career, like look at your marks at the matriculation and that 10+2 engineering. And if the person has been consistently very good, he will be taken. And that consistency was more important than certainly some peak in the end examination. And this is another thing I want to tell you, which is unfortunate these days, that all of you, I'm sure you have come through those examinations. So it has become such a culture that everybody takes in all the data, stores it there, and somehow reproduces and gets it. But here we had to have knowledge and not just memorize data. And because we had our knowledge, whatever I learned those days, I haven't forgotten till today. In fact, my daughter, every time she's so much surprised that she says they learned the last 2-3 months or last week something, she's not able to remember. And I am able to answer whatever she says because I have that knowledge. Knowledge doesn't go away. Whereas what she has is data that she has memorized. So I'm just trying to tell you that that's the difference between data and knowledge. And now the entrance examination these days are such that they only test that you can reproduce the data, correct numbers and everything, but you cannot use it because it's not knowledge. Anyway, so what I want to tell you is that this is how I got into master's degree in internal commercial engineering. Now, that was a 2-year course, that means 4 semesters. I did my master MTech. We had internal 2 branches, internal commercial engineering and automobile engineering. I did in internal commercial engineering. In the final semester, I was asked to work on analysis and design of mufflers for the engine exhaust noise control. It was very logical because after all, we had worked on internal commercial engineering, so somebody had to work on noise control. But ironically, we knew nothing Means I studied 23 subjects during my undergrad, not a single one was on acoustics. I knew no acoustics at all. Okay? Now, I could have requested for a change. In fact, when friends said you go back to another department, I request for a change in the project. What is there? I mean, you are the topper in the class, and then you will really lose rank and everything if you are like this. Okay? However, I took it up as a personal challenge. This is what I want to tell you. Today's lecture is very special because I am just telling you, all my life, I challenged myself. No, it was almost suicidal that I would have lost my rank, everything, because I didn't know anything about acoustics, and there is something I'm going to do project on. But I told myself again the same thing. Yes, I have done all my life the same thing. I have taught myself and I teach myself. Anyway, now what I did was, I gave myself a crash course in fundamentals of acoustics. I went to the library, just looked at the shells and all that. There was a book called Fundamentals of Acoustics by INSA. So I did the same thing which I did in 8th standard for my brother. I took that book and in 10 to 15 days, I worked on the complete book, including all exercises. Now, you might ask that, anybody would have taught me so easily. Nothing. Then if you had taught me, again, it will only have been data. Knowledge really comes when you think on that problem. So not only I found out all that was there in the book, I also found that practically nothing was there. What I needed for this designing mufflers, there was nothing. So somebody had to do it. And when I was discussing with my very close friend in the class, I said, this is it. There is nothing in the book, which can take me to the project. He said, that's what he told you. Why did you take the project? I mean, he was like a well-meaning friend. That you will spoil your life. Okay. I said, wait a minute. I think that's the best thing. And tells me that it's open field. Whatever I do will be new. I'll do it. And then he just did like this. I give up. But anyway, now, this is something very interesting. Please all of you listen, this part of this. This is another thing that happened in my life. Now, over the next 3 months, making use of mathematical induction, electroacoustic analysis, and heuristics of successive multiplication of transfer matrices, all self-taught, I developed an algebraic algorithm. Now, see, basically what happens is that you have a lost muffler. You break it up into certain elements. And then you develop transfer matrices for each one of them. Connecting the upstream state variables with the downstream state variables. Making use of basic equations of continuity, momentum, energy transfer, etc. And then all you do is you successively multiply 2 at a time, and when you finish the whole thing, you get overall transfer matrix, and from that you can get the transmission loss, insertion loss, noise reduction parameters. So I did that for simplest muffler, that little more complicated, etc. I did 21 mufflers. I did longhand. And you might wonder why longhand. Longhand because there were no computers those days. I am talking of 1968. Even the Institute of Science got its first computer only in 1971. We didn't even have these calculators. We had those slide rules. I don't know that anybody has ever seen or heard about slide rules. Okay. So now you can look at it this, there were no resources. But that is why what I am trying to tell you today, that the best thing that happened. Because there were no resources, we had to develop ourselves. And that is what brought out the best in us. So I developed this algebraic algorithm. You wouldn't believe. I did not have to write equations. I did not have to put those transfer matrices. I didn't have to multiply those matrices. Given a system, I could directly get the final answer without any calculations in between. similar to what I told you about monomial theorem. And skipping all the steps, just making use of mathematical induction, or the kind of thing I have been doing from childhood, all the time. I just use that thing and I developed this algorithm. In fact, you won't believe, when I presented in the seminar of the semester for my marks, etc., there was a complete silence in the hall. Actually, nobody knew what question to ask. After about 20 to 30 seconds of silence, somebody asked, how did it occur to you? And that's the only thing they could ask me. How did it occur to me? Now, this is something that I want to tell you today. See, because all I did was, I was looking at, because I did everything longhand, I could develop the patterns, mathematical patterns that were developing. And then I could really come out with an algorithm which made use of what I had been finding during my longhand calculations. And then, I was able to present something straight away like that. In fact, at the end of this seminar, I came to know later, all the faculty of the Department of Mechanical Engineering, they went to the head of the department and told him, sir, don't let this guy get out. He belongs to IIS. In fact, the following week, I went for an interview with Tata Motors. In those days, it was not for Tata Motors, it was for Telco. Okay, I put in for this one. They were setting up engineering research center. And then I came back and told my head of department and that I have been selected. And then he tells me, no, you are not going out. You are not joining Tata Motors. Anyway, so then I came to know that I have been recommended. And Professor Satish Dhawan, who was director of the IISc those days, he was very reluctant. But he said, you are asking me to take him, how good this boy is. You are asking me to take him as lecturer when he doesn't have PhD. And in IISc, it was very important. Without PhD, you could not be lecturer. Finished. But then, there was a lot of discussion, it seems, and then again, 4 of the faculty, senior faculty, they joined us as a department, and then had a detailed discussion with the director, and finally he agreed. And he said, all right, then we'll create a supernumerary post for him, not in the regular this one, and he has to face an interview and a competition within 1 year, and then join. So when they came back, they told me, and they expected that, no, I would say, no, I don't want consultancy. But again, that personal confidence was so much that I said, fine, I am ready. And because again my friend said, what is this? You are doing such a good job at this Tata Motors. Okay? And here is something you are saying, it's real, you can fear, I don't know what will happen. Anyway, now next year, the interviews are held. This is another very interesting thing that happened. 7 persons appeared. All other 6 were PhD holders from different places in the country. I was the only MTech who was doing PhD. And I was the only person selected. And in fact, it was very interesting, by filling up the form, they asked me, what pay scale you expect. And I just written that I will expect at least 4 advanced increments. Just written something. I mean, my own confidence, there was no logic. They asked me at the end of the response, that how do you justify that? I said, because it was asked and I feel I deserve, but if you don't give me, I still join. IAS is much more important for me than 4 increments. So then one of them said, look at him. I mean, he belongs to a family where his father could not even send him to college, and he says money doesn't matter. He says, IELTS is important. There also actually same thing happened. When I presented my work, the next day actually, my head of department told me that you don't know what happened yesterday. He said that in the interview, when everybody suggested that I should be taken as lecturer, and my director was again reluctant, all the three outside experts, they said, fine, we'll take him in our university. Give him to us. So he says that, he told me we have the lawsuit yesterday, so they were ready to take you. Okay, and immediately the director, he also didn't want to lose me. But what I want to tell you again, sorry I'm coming back to this one again. In my whole life there was no planning. I just took up every day new challenge, whatever came to me, I took it. And finally God took care of everything. So this is what I was telling you. The algebraic algorithm proved to be not only a breakthrough for analysis of one-dimensional dynamical filters, but also for rational synthesis of vibration isolators as well as exhaust mufflers. Now, had I not challenged myself, I would have ended up by making at best a small incremental contribution to the field. Instead, I developed a niche for myself. And this is what I told you. Consequent to the unanimous recommendation of faculty department to the director proceeds government, I was offered a lectureship in the department without any interview. In fact, a similar post was created for me, waiving of the requirement of PhD for the lectureship. Now, again, I was strongly advised by my well-wishers and colleagues to apply for admission to MIT or Caltech for my PhD, for IIC had no reputation in this field. However, the urge to challenge myself grew too strong for me again. Again the same thing. I mean, everybody used to look forward to going abroad and learning very good university and all that. And I just told that they were asking me that tomorrow, even if you finish PhD, then somebody says, where did you do your PhD from? What will you say? Institute of Science. Who knows Institute of Science? I'm talking of those days, 1968, 70. But again, look at the answer which came to me again. There was no planning at all. A kind of spontaneous answer came from me, and that was that all those Caltech and IIT, those places became so famous because of their alumni and faculty and students. Okay? Why can't I play that role? I mean, instead of my saying I did my PhD from such and such place, let that place say that Munjal was our student. Again, the same thing. I mean, this was not appreciated at all by my friends. They always look at me as not crazy. Okay. But anyway, what I'm saying, I let that opportunity go, going abroad and doing anything. Okay. And then I continued there. And then what I did was, as I'm saying, all I needed was patronage and encouragement, and I got a lot of it from Professor Narasimhan, who then later on continued to be a friend, prospect, guide. In fact, that's the best guide I needed. A guide who never guides. I didn't need guidance. I just wanted encouragement, shabash. That's what I needed, and I got a lot of it from him. So I just wanted to tell you that part. That again God was very kind. Because had he guided me then, he would have guided along the lines that this was. But I didn't want that. I wanted myself to continue in the way I was doing. Let's not go to the next slide. Yeah. Okay, now I had learned as lecturer and I asked, a grant of 10,000 rupees from my head of department. But this young man, 10,000 rupees. We should know about it, we just don't have that kind of money. So, again the same thing. I didn't fight with him or this, nothing at all. Again, God wanted to take it. Again, I took up on my own and I continued my theoretical work. I learned and made use of the theory of combinatorics to establish sufficient. I had all the constraints for making those algorithms. I could not prove the sufficiency. So I then could establish sufficiency of the constraints for writing what velocity ratio in terms of the valid combinations of the characteristic impedances of the elements constituting the dynamical field, making use of an ingenious two-row array of element subsets. Based on analytical validation of my algorithm, I got my PhD degree and published several papers in equity. Now this is another interesting thing. I published in the Journal of Sound and Vibration, which is published from England. And that was the first time anybody had published any paper in that journal. And in the 3 years, I got published half a dozen papers. And then I was promoted as assistant professor and was awarded the Science Academy Medal for Young Scientists for the year 1975. In fact, I received it at the hands of the then Honorable Prime Minister Ms. Indira Gandhi in January 1976 at the Science Congress in Warde. And again, you wouldn't believe this money that I got. That's the first time I had a bank balance. I never had a bank balance. Okay? First time my bank balance started with that 7,000 rupees award that I got in this competition. And this was just literally something personal I like to tell you. Because my father was completely literate. He couldn't understand what I was doing. When I did my MTech, PhD, all the time he was asking, are you all right? Son, why don't you consider, talk to a wise man, see what you are doing, otherwise we don't know what you are doing and what will happen. It was the first time and he saw my photograph with the Prime Minister. Then he knew I must have been doing it. Now, during the next 7 years, but I have time and I'm just going on. I just want to share with everybody how nature works and how you can make the best of it. So, please tell me whenever you want me to stop, no problem. Okay. Now during the next 7 years, I worked on analysis of commercial mufflers, most of which make use of perforated elements. So this posed a very formidable problem. But in association with one of my PhD students, Dr. K. Narayana, who had come to me from Osmania University, the quality improvement program to do his PhD with me. So together we developed a distributed parameter approach along with eigen analysis of perforated element mufflers. Now a paper based on this work was adjudged the best paper in the world in muffler acoustics by Nelson Industries in US. And we got the Nelson Acoustical Paper Award, first prize. Now this is very nice, both myself and my student, they were given all the fare and everything to go to USA, be in the best hotel, be there for 3 to 5 days and attend that function. Also we gave a series of lectures, starting with this kind of thing. And more than anything, that the vice president of the company told me, we have had many years in India. It's time to come out, expose yourself to everything. Okay? But anyway, I said not yet, maybe someday I will come. Anyway, I'll tell you later it happened. Okay. Now, another good thing happened was, based on this breakthrough, I got 2 projects from the Volkswagen Foundation of Germany and published a few papers that have been cited very widely. Good thing that happened was that this was a very nice thing. I was supposed to collaborate with a professor in Germany, but all the money will be for me, not for that professor. He'll act only as a the raisin man between the Volkswagen and me. So whatever books I wanted, he would buy it, and directly ask them to deliver to me in Bengaluru. All instruments I wanted, he would place the orders, and instruments will be given to me directly in Bengaluru. It's a very nice thing, you know. So no money was given, but I got everything I wanted, got about 100,000 Roish for first project, and that was a success in another project. And that is when I really developed my laboratory. First time, you know, I didn't have to ask the head of the department. I got all the money. Yeah. Now another thing I am telling you how just challenging myself really opened new vistas for me. I was invited by the director of Institute for Technical Acoustics, University Berlin, and because I went directly, they didn't insist on my knowing German language. Okay, they said, all right, you can speak, you can give your lectures in English. I said that suits me. But soon I found that they knew very little English, and I knew very little German. So what I did of necessity was that I would prepare lecture notes for the next week, get them xeroxed, and give that in the class today. So to say that next week we'll study this, we'll be discussing this. So they at their own leisure, they would go through my notes and then come prepared with whatever they did not understand. So I quickly start with that. Now this kind of thing, it was actually a necessity, but really it started a new thing for me. At the end of that semester, I realized that this set of lecture notes could form a very nice book, because there was no book on that subject at all. Whole subject had been developed only by me. So somebody in the world had to write that book. Okay? And what I did was, after returning from sabbatical leave in Germany, I started offering that course to my MTech students, and we kept improving, those notes. And in about 5 years' time, I was ready with the monograph, and it was accepted. Those notes eventually resulted in a monograph, Acoustics of Ducts and Mufflers, which was published by John Wiley in New York in 1987. This monograph has remained till today the only book on this subject, and has been cited in most of the papers that have appeared in journals during the last 25 years. Incidentally, the second edition of the monograph has been published now by again John Wiley, Chichester, UK, in 2000. So what I'm trying to say is, again, by making the best of a challenge, that indirectly it resulted. I never thought of this book yet. Just the way it happened, I just let it happen. Okay, and that is how whole thing happen. So what I'm trying to tell you is, now this book has been cited 3,500 times. Any paper published in the world in this subject is always the first reference in my book. Okay, so automatically, when I didn't have to read, everybody would know me, and therefore things just happen. And one of the things that I was going to tell you here, during that sabbatical I was telling you, I was Professor Dekal, director of the institute, who had invited me, and I found that, I asked him one day, I said, you are paying me so much money, where does it come from? Because you don't have any project on mufflers or that. He said, don't worry, I have another project on railways, and I'm earning from that, and I'm giving to you my money, so don't worry about it. But I felt, no. I don't know, I knew nothing of railway, no railway, nothing at all. Okay, but then I studied the railway interaction and modeled the flexural vibration of the rail as a bone saw. It was a very new field for me at that time. An interesting result of the study was that the sleepers should not be placed at equal distances. Exact periodicity was responsible for harmonic excitation of the rail, resulting in excessive noise in certain bands of frequencies and consistency. But when I returned to India, I offered this knowledge to RDS or Lucknow. You know RDS? This is a Research and Development Standards Organization. They are the R&D for the whole Indian Railways. And you wouldn't believe, they did not even follow up on that discussion. I was not even asking for money. I said, there is new knowledge. Okay, all I am saying is that when you put sleepers under the rail, don't make them periodic, don't make them equal. So that is going against you. Periodicity should not be there, so that's what the resonance builds up. Anyway, they didn't do anything like that. But let me just tell you how in India everything works. About 10 years ago, they approached me and they wanted me to work on locomotive noise reduction. And I said, wait a minute, what happened? Because I said 20 years ago, I offered all that knowledge and you wouldn't even listen to me. He said, no, something else has happened. He would come out, but I said, no, you have to tell me what happened today. He says the Prime Minister visited Banaras, and when the function was taking place on the platform, the noise that was coming from the locomotive, that was such that, he could not be heard properly by anybody. He said, you have to do something. And because Prime Minister said, therefore it had to be done. And this is how in India things happen. But anyway, fortunately, I didn't have to take it up. There was another person, IIT Kharagpur. I knew that he already has facilities on this. So I told them, you go to him, he'll take it. No, you only do. Again, the same thing. I said, finally, I had to give in writing that I am responsible for the results of the project, but you give it to him. I know that he is capable of doing it. And finally, he did a very good job. So I didn't have to feel sorry for him. But what I'm trying to tell you is in India, we have those kind of situations that, they don't appreciate when something is big, because they don't want to think on their own at all. Now, a number of things combined was in 80s. And in 1986, the beginning, I became full professor at the IISc. And, sorry. What is it? I'm pressing the left one, but it's going for your distance here. Please go back to that slide. Sorry. Yeah, correct. Thank you. So I'm just telling you, around this time, I received the Shanti Swarup Bhattacharya Prize in Engineering Sciences for the year 1986 at the hands of the Deep Gandhi Bhattacharya Honorary Prime Minister. And then I also got fellowship of the Indian National Science Academy, also fellowship of the Indian Academy of Science. You can see all at the same time, 86, 87, again fellowship of their newly established Indian National Academy of Engineering. In fact, I became founder fellow of INSA, although I was affiliated at the University of Calgary in Canada and Nelson Industries in Wisconsin for my second survey. So you can see one thing that again, there was no planning at all. Just things kept happening. Okay, and also you can see that I never went to USA etc. to do my PhD or anything. All the time I went as professor. So to myself that meant a lot. Okay, that's what I had told my friends that why can't I be the other side? So let them call me as a professor rather than only my time for a student. Now, here's another thing that is coming to challenge. All my life, I have been working on passive dynamical filters. Okay, but this Nelson Industries from home, I had got that award. When they came to know that I was in Canada, they called me and said, can you divide your sabbatical leave and half the time come and give to us and work here? I said, to work on what? And they said, work on the, I think you only did it. Yeah. Yes. Now, I worked for the first time on active noise control of the air handling units used in thermal power plants and the heating, ventilation and air conditioning system. Our studies revealed that in a tuned ANC system, the secondary source, auxiliary source and the primary source unload each other. They present an acoustical short circuit or zero acoustic impedance feature. Now this is entirely new thing. Those of you who work in electrical communication systems, now you will know what I am talking about. But I was a mechanical engineer, I didn't know anything of that. And the vice president simply told me that we have been doing all this, I know, we know everything about digital signal processing, but we don't know about acoustics. You tell us, how does it work? How do the two sources cancel each other? Why we have silence when we start our source? So this is how, I was able to prove purely by acoustics, not know the signal processing. Okay? Okay, just go back one step. So what I was trying to tell you is that this is a very nice thing. People used to think that when you have an auxiliary source, how does it cancel the sound coming from the primary source? Now I proved acoustically, purely using transfer matrices, I proved that the impedance of the primary source as seen from the secondary source becomes zero when it is tuned. And not only that, reverse also happens. The secondary source is also silenced by the primary source. So when the two are tuned, both silence each other by presenting zero impedance, and because again zero impedance, no power can be transferred. And therefore, basically, both silence each other by giving an acoustical short circuit. Now that was a path-breaking kind of thing, which I was just able to prove by actual long-hand mathematics. So in fact, from that day onwards, the whole design of active noise control system changed. So I'm just saying here, minor thing understood. In other words, they are made to silence each other by means of an adaptive digital infinite impulse response filter working on the feedback control or feed forward approach. Now I didn't do all this. This was already being done by the digital signal processing people. But I told them now that instead of avoiding the resonance of loudspeakers, you design it for at resonance. Because at resonance, you have zero impedance. They won't believe it. I said, why don't we do it? So based on my work, they set up special experiments, and then they found that this is the best thing. Okay, and the cheapest thing, because they came out with such cheap system, they were able to capture the market in USA. And not only that, after 8 months when I was leaving, they asked me, in a typical American way of saying, you can choose whatever designation you want, what you can select what you want. And usually, when they like you, they take you to the skies. But I knew from other friends that when tomorrow when they don't like you, they drop you like hot coal. As if you don't matter. So they are that kind of business people. So I said, no, I very respected the different application of science, and I like to continue there. But then they said, we have a research advisory council. Can you become a member of that? So which means every year you'll be coming for 10-15 days in the summer to attend that meeting and just advise us a little. I said, fine. So that is how for next 3 years I was going to USA every year and attending that meeting and then doing legal consultancy. So that's what I was telling. That is how I need it. But anyway, that apart, I came back to my passive noise control system, and I continued working there because that was my bread and butter. Now this is another case of agile, and this is the last thing that I'm talking about. You might have seen, those of you who are in this field, have you heard of sonar systems? You have heard of radar. whatever a dart does in air, sonar does, underwater. So what happens is the enemy underwater sends a signal, and from the reflection of it from your submarine, it gets where the submarine is, and then they can fire an acoustically guided torpedo and finish you off. So this is a very important part in strategic electronics and acoustics. So Dr. V.K. AICTE, who was at that time, heading DRDO, and we were actually on the same committee for advising some ministry those days. So he just told me, he says, this we have to do ourselves. We are getting these systems from Russia, and they are charging us whatever they want. And this is not all. This has to stop. So I said, but I don't know anything about underwater acoustic. He says, but I know you can do it. If anybody is there in India who can do it, you can do it. You just ask whatever you want, whatever resources, whatever this one, we will give you. But please set up a school group and do this. Now let me just tell you again the same kind of thing. Now this time it came from my wife. She said, are you sure what you are doing? You are already 47, 48 years old, and now you want to start something you know nothing about underwater acoustics. But I said, anybody can do the country. It can only be me. He said, but how? She said, how? I said, I also don't know how. All I know is whenever I have taken a challenge, I have been able to deliver. And I have not let my country down. I said, I take it. Now, in summary, I must just tell you, next 20 years, 88 to 2008, I worked in this field, guided 2 or 3 PhD students, published a number of papers, but more than anything, we were able to completely design perforated acoustical linings, which if you put on the outside the submarine, when he sends any signal, nothing will go back, it gets absorbed, and therefore he cannot find our position, because he could find only from the reflection, and nothing is reflected. So my submarine will be invisible to him. Okay, and this is what I want to tell you at the end of it. The graphical user interface as the codes for analysis of the resonator linings were passed on to the design directorate of the Indian Navy. This and some other associated pieces of research got me the coveted DRDO Academic Excellence Award for the year 2009 at the hands of Honorary Prime Minister. So again, what I want to tell you here again and again, there was no planning in all this. In my life, whenever a challenge came to me, I took it up. That's it. With full confidence that I can do it. I never let the thought that I may fail, it would occur to me. See, again now, I'd just like to tell you one thing. Whenever you have a situation like this, there are 2 ways you can argue with yourself. One is, if nobody else could do in the world, who can I do? Other is, if anybody will be able to do in the world, why can't it be me? And that is what I want to tell you today. One main thing, all of you young men and women, please, never let the negative thing go to your mind. If anybody can do it, why can't it be me? And all my presentation today is to tell you that it actually happened. And I put my everything at stake. When my father could not afford anything, I could have fallen for this going abroad and doing PhD and getting those money and all this. I could have done that. But still the confidence was so much that I said no. I had my own path. And because I had my own path, things kept happening. And that is the main thing I want to share with you today. Next. Again, another thing, I had a sabbatical leave at Ford Motor Company in USA. And there, they asked me to work on, I was in the climate control division of the Ford Motor Company, Michigan. And I worked in the challenging field of vibroacoustics of hoses and valves. A very new field for me. I had never worked on this. And our studies revealed that apart from their role in vibration isolation and the structure mode sound, hoses and bellows play a considerable role in the breakout noise as well as enhanced axial transmission. Now I am not going to the details. Next. Another thing on this tell you here, India is a very noisy country. All the Indians are all very noisy people. Okay? All of us, whether it is our celebration or anything, it has to be public address systems. Okay? Now, I was chairman of the National Committee for Noise Pollution Control, which advises the Central Pollution Control Board, the executive wing of the Ministry of Environment and Forest. Since its inception in 1998, based on this committee's recommendation, the Ministry of Environment and Forest has issued dozen notifications for the control of noise from diesel generator sets, portable gensets, automobiles, firecrackers, public address systems, etc. My sustained contribution to the noise pollution. This is a demonstration of the noise. Okay. My sustained contribution to the noise pollution control has been recognized by the government of Madhya Pradesh in conformance with the Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru Award in Engineering and Technology for the year 2010. Next. Next. Now I retired in 2010 and subsequent to my formal superannuation in July 2010, I worked as honorary professor at IISc for 5 years. Concurrently, I had the honor to work as INA distinguished professor. And during this time, I wrote 2 books, Noise and Vibration Control, and of course, and all this after retirement. I worked as INSA senior scientist during 2013 and again 17 to 19. Since 2019, I have been working as INSA honorary scientist, and now the AICTE distinguished professor is brings me to the college. And it is around close to let me not go to deep with the next. Yeah, I just want to tell you here that incidentally things also happened abroad. Now, based on my sustained work in motor acoustics, I was invited to deliver a plenary address at the 18th International Congress on Sound and Vibration at Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And during the inauguration ceremony, I was bestowed with honorary fellowship of the International Institute of Acoustic and Vibration. Besides, I have been distinguished international member of IMC USA since 1988, member of the European Academy since 1996, and member of the Editorial Board International Institute. And I have finished. And next. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Now I just want to tell you here, day after tomorrow, full lecture is on industrial consultancy. So I have done more than 125 projects, and I have a lot to share with you on the challenges as well as opportunities that lie in the industrial consultancy. So here is just a summary of that. I'm just trying to say it is more challenging and yet it's more satisfying to an engineering scientist at the end of the day. I have carried out more than 125 consultancy projects during the last 5 decades, apart from helping DRDO and the Defense Force. Working in an institutional consultancy mode, I have been able to earn for our return institutes the vertical part of my substantial part of my salary or pension, apart from increasing my take salary or pension. This is another thing I want to tell you. I have had the pleasure of giving back to the institute more than the pension they gave me. I'm like a free professor for the institute. Moreover, my students get the opportunity to work on real life problems. Consequently, they are in high demand from industry. In any campus in our campus, my students are always the first to get jobs because working with me on consultancy projects and all industry wanted that kind of knowledge. I just thought I'd share it. Next. I have written after this textbook on noise and vibration control, and this was again commissioned by the government of India. I didn't understand from my topic, and they paid me for writing the book. They also paid to my secretary, etc., for doing all these notes and drawings and everything. And this is published by World Scientific Publishers in collaboration with IISc. And based on my 4 decades experience in teaching research uses, especially suited for self-reading, engineers working on industrial noise control, and several faculty development courses have been arranged for training teachers of engineering colleges who can be encouraged to introduce this course in their curriculum. In fact, this is another thing I'll be talking about on Thursday and Friday. And I am trying to take up this forward during this signature. Next. And incidentally, I want to tell you here a concept that is some of you might have heard. I have been able to do so much work, not alone. I have always been able to attract some very, very talented students. Or as one of the students always tells me, even if they were not talented, they became talented. Okay, but this is what is called, principle of mastermind at work. When a number of minds together think on the same problem, what finally develops is a mastermind, and together something they are able to do individually they could not have done it, but it has happened many, many times in my group. Often I tell my students, sometimes they come to me with a problem, and I say, I'm sorry, I have just no idea how you can proceed. But then I tell them, wait a minute, you can help yourself. Okay? Tell yourself that today afternoon, all of you, and there are 6 persons in my group, all 6 of you will put your heads together and think only on this problem. And you won't believe, invariably at the end of 3 hours, they would come to me and say, sir, we did it. So individually, none of them would have done it. But this principle of mastermind is a very important thing in research. And this is what I want to share with all of you, students, when you do projects, etc. Put your heads together with all positive feeling for each other. Please remember, no question of competing or challenging or doubting your friends. Say that you are going to think on it, and let everybody think on it, and finally just do brainstorming. Let everybody say whatever comes out of their mind, and you will find maybe 80 to 90% foolishness, silly, but there will be 10% which finally says yes, that might work. And that is how my students are often done. In fact, they often surprise me. Okay? So, but this is very important. I want to share with you, particularly for the faculty, that we could encourage this kind of. Next. And now this is just a summary of my lecture today, and it's a very important slide because I have been talking so much of personal design. So now we can see arising out of all these personal experiences. There are a few suggestions that I would like to make to the younger members of the Scientific Industrial Academy. First is be resourceful. The best of science was not created by scientists to create resources. In fact, I often turned the lack of resources into a challenge, and the result was amazing. If you enjoy your work, you will never feel tired. I proved this to myself again and again in my life. Enjoy the process of research. Do not make it a job. Work does not kill. Stress does. Creativity increases as we think deeper and deeper, and this depth can be achieved by thinking about a problem undisturbed for long hours at a stretch. No coffee breaks for phone calls or chats. This is how I developed the algorithm. Sitting in the library, you won't believe, 8 o'clock library used to open. 8 o'clock I go there, and lunch used to be at 12 o'clock. 4 hours means 4 hours. I'll be almost entering the library along with the peon who opened the library. Okay? And no coffee break, nothing. But you might say, oh, it will be killing. No, it's the other way around. I was entirely in a different state of mind. Because when you think deep on the same problem with full confidence in yourself and go deeper and deeper, you almost enter, like this term, a semi-meditative state. And that's the kind of stage I often have made use of. And it's very real, I'm telling you this, whole my problem and my idea going through my own life is today this, that everything is being told to you as it happened, no theory. As you think on the same problem, undisturbed, absolutely undisturbed, wonders can happen because you're thinking it deeper and it doesn't remain shallow. Okay? And that is where the real knowledge is. So almost you tap nature or the nature's secrets by going deeper and deeper. In the long run, clarity about basic principles, laws and concepts is more important than cramming for the examinations. Concepts remain with you for a long time, and during spells of deep, extended thinking result in creativity. In this lecture I am going to give tomorrow all about creativity. Thank you. There's no other mic. A question answer I thought we could separate one mic so that anybody will ask. Yes. Hello, friends. Please, make use of this opportunity and just open up. Say ask whatever you want to ask. Okay. And I try to answer to the best of my knowledge.
Any questions you want to ask in clarification? Any queries?
Thank you so much for this wonderful sessions, really, and experiences makes men perfect. So your own personal, it was not like as if we were very embarrassed and very astonished to go through all these things. So first of all, thank you for giving us this opportunity. My question is, sir, you told about your childhood life. Father was not able to support all those things. And once you are back to that full form, how was the support from your family members? Maybe am I asking some personal?
It was you are going to hear something which you least expect. As I told you, my parents had full education. In fact, when I finished my B.Tech, so far as my father was concerned, I had finished 16 years of education. And he thought that is education, how is it 16 years, right? Because, people call it MSc or, MA or whatever, etc. He used to think 16 years is the total education. So when I became a lecturer, I joined for M.Tech, he was surprised. What is that now? At least now you should start earning, And what is this? You are still a student. But then I said, in engineering, you need another 2 years to do MTech. So, and then I'll get a much better job, But, he just couldn't understand. I can't blame a person who has not studied at all. So what he would know what is B.Tech and Tech. But anyway, good thing about that was, he had somehow developed that faith in me that this boy, whatever he does, there is something in him. So he told himself, all that means is that I can work for 2 more years before he could start supporting the family. And then anyway, after MTech, I got lectureship and so I got a job, etc. So he was happy. Now, both my parents visited me in Bengaluru, and one night, midnight, he got up and he finds that I am studying. Now, that was too much for him. He says, look here now you have completed 18 years of this one. And what are you doing now? Why have you got into this line that all life you will be studying? Again, for him, study was a big job, because he had never studied. Okay? And then, I tried to explain to him, that it's into research career. In research career, the person keeps studying and teaching, all the life. I said, why do you get into that line? So we should have asked from the wise man, he said in Punjabi, he's a Syane Munnas, okay. But anyway, this is, this is how it went on. But that's why I was telling you, when I got that at the hands of Ms. Indira Gandhi, that award and that photograph, I sent it to Hoshiarpur, to my parents, and that is when he saw. That was actually the most revealing moment for him. For the first time, he was convinced that his son was not on the wrong track. So what I'm trying to say is that I studied I grew up in that kind of family. So but nature has been very kind to me. Everything finally was out fine.
Good afternoon, sir. First of all, thank you so much for inspiring us through your life story and your achievements. You talked a lot about your positives, but my question is, how do you de-stress yourself after your bad day at work? And how does your self-confidence and self-esteem play in terms of your emotional intelligence as a leader?
I will answer that question tomorrow. And yes, tomorrow's lecture is very important because I am going to tell you how do you develop creativity. And what I am going to tell you may be half spiritual, but it works for me, it works for everybody. So I really want you to please attend tomorrow's lecture, and I'm going to really share with you some secrets of living, not just any problem solving. How things happen. And I'll answer that question.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
This session was really inspiring and I have a lot to ask actually. I'll start with, it's all about finding the right place and the right people to get moving to more places, right? To learn a lot, right? How did you find the right place and the right people?
This is another thing. I'm glad you asked that question. I didn't do that. It happened. That's why I was trying to tell you everything. That I lived all the time in the present, not in the past, not in the future. I took the day as it came, the challenge it came, I took it up like that. So what you are asking is that it was not the right. That right comes in only if you have a prior idea of what is right, what is wrong. I never did that. It's a very important thing. I'm going to talk in detail tomorrow. In tomorrow's lecture, this concept is very important. We know very, very little about nature. And still we think we know everything. I go to this university, I apply like this, I get this recommendation from here, this and this and that. You all the time plan as if whole life is in your hand. No, it's not. So you make yourself unhappy because you already have a notion of if this happens, it's good, if this happens, bad. I never did that. I was always happy. No, it's very important, you might feel like work for me or there's much more in this philosophy, which I just developed naturally, all the time whenever I would succeed at something, I would look back and ask myself, how did it happen? Rather than all the time thinking of why something may not happen the way I wanted. I always did the other way around, and I learned a lot. So I want to tell you one thing. When, let us say, you want to reach, you want to go up and up, let's say Mount Everest. I'm giving you an example of mountain climbing. Now, you start climbing, you go and you reach, let's say half. And there are two ways now of reacting at that time. One is looking up at the mountain, my God, it's so far away. I've been climbing, and I have only climbed up to this. I have so much to climb, and you will get very discouraged. But do the opposite. Look down. And say, oh my God, I climbed all the way from the ground zero and came so much up. Because that is also true. You are already 50% you are up. I mean, your friends or somebody is still in the lower hills. So you look down and then congratulate yourself. Yes, I could do so much. Instead of, so there are always two ways of, and both are important. We should always look up to go up or to rise in life. But always look down to feel happy at the end of the day. That day has not been wasted. Okay? Have you made my point? And again, then for this also I talked about.
And again, when you explain about your work with DRDO, you use the term acoustically guided. What does it mean, sir?
No. The warfare is firing acoustically guided missiles, torpedoes at the surface. What I did was, I developed a special resonant linings such that when the sonar signal is sent to the enemy at our submarine, it just gets absorbed by the lining. If nothing goes back, their systems don't detect anything. They will not even know there is a submarine because their signal that is sent, they never went back to this. So I just did that. I work my passive side on it. Okay? But I mean, what they do is, of course, signal processing, etc. That's not my field. Because I have always been in mechanical engineering, not in electrical communication. But I have often joined hands with people. In fact, there is a group at National Aerospace Laboratories in Bengaluru, and they work on active noise control. And in fact, when I returned from Nelson Industries, they came to me, one Nasima, he came to me and says, can we join hands? We don't know anything but acoustics, but we know signal processing. Now, active noise control is, I would say, 80% signal processing, only 20% acoustics. But then I knew my 20% there. Okay? So that's how we joined, and we developed, this kind of developing acoustic wideness of the pilots of light combat aircraft, advanced light helicopters. Not only that, I mean, several other things I can't tell you in open forum. I mean, I have been helping them developing, using this knowledge and finding ways. For example, a simple thing I'll just tell you. A pilot, he is getting so much noise, the aerodynamic noise that is being generated, and part of that enters the cockpit. Now, at the same time, he is in touch with the ground station, and he should be able to carry on a conversation. Okay? But then this noise is so much, it's masking what's there. So what we did was, we developed this system that all this kind of noise, not all, it's absorbed by 20 decibels. Okay? So that now the signal that's coming from ground, a conversation, now that predominates over this, and he's able to carry on a conversation without problem. And that's very important. If he does not hear properly, it may mean, but in that sense, I mean, life and death. One mistake and he loses his dog fight. Everything depends on what signal he is getting, guidance he is getting from ground. So now we have to do that. Again, my contribution has been only acoustics. Okay, but those people are very good in signal processing, DSP, and that's how it has worked.
Thank you.
just like to tell you in general, just wait because I am here for 5 days. Many of the questions or doubts that you have today will be answered tomorrow or day after this so. Okay, so real discussion maybe we can have on the last day. We can in fact have a very special session for 2 hours or whatever, so that then finally whatever you want to ask, I can answer. But meanwhile, it's good to see that some people have been listening very attentively. That's very gratifying. Shall we call it a day?
Thank you, Professor, and thank you, students. We are reminded that events like this one are milestones on the journey of life and reminders of God's divinity all through. Thank you so much, Professor, for inspiring us through your life history and explaining your principle of mastermind at work. Thank you.